Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. This is going to be the first EVE Talk after the invasion. Expansion has dropped so far. I must say it's been going pretty well, especially the 64-bit client apparently finds a lot of people joining the open beta, something like 30% in like the first week or so. That is pretty impressive, and it is quite nice of course to have, and goddamn that double click problem still exists. I'm gonna have to buy a new mouse I think, but yeah, 64-bit client does have a lot of potential in my opinion, and you already see some people that are running like ultra wides on their massive gate camps, or when capitals and super capitals get dropped and things like that. So lots of very impressive footage coming thanks to the 64-bit client. I would highly recommend, if you have the specs for it, to join the open beta. The more people join it, the more data CCP gets, and the higher the chance that we'll get a very good product once it actually officially launches as well. The potential for the game I think is huge. When it comes to the invasions, basically CCP is not deploying everything in a single go, so they're planning to ramp up these invasions with apparently some sort of sites. So I do suspect that we will get very close to the incursion format itself. Will there be a lot to do solo? I'm not exactly sure. I did take the Praxis back for a second run as well with a different fit. Things worked out a little bit better, so I think even if the sites cannot be done solo, you will always be able to, at least in the perimeter systems, go after the solo fleets, and the salvage there is pretty important for Tech 2 production of Triglavian ships. So while we do have some problems with ninja salvagers coming in, it is potentially decent income as well, even for a solo player. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll try to find the right fits, the right ships, and try to have some fun with these Triglavian invasions. Next up, we'll take a quick look at the New Eden store. We do have a 15% sale on Plex, but I don't think that you see that in the New Eden store itself. I think that's only on the CCP website. But we also have a new skin coming out here. Look at that, the In Rust We Trust skin. So you've got lots of Minmatar ships with, well, I think that these look pretty damn cool, very rusty looking skins, and you have several bundles on these, going with the Rust Bucket bundle, the Scrap Heap bundle, the Salvage Yard bundle, and the One Careful Owner bundle. So very interesting stuff here, a new type of skin designed for Minmatar. Definitely pretty cool if you like to fly Minmatar ships. Next up, we are going to move on to the market, of course. That's why everyone is here. So we're going to start with some Plex and stuff, and that's going to be at 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Like that, and let's take a look here. We've got Plex down a little bit in JITA, at least 4,344,000 disk at this point, down obviously due to the sale. So we're gonna take a quick look at the chart. You can see the little dip, and this is due to the 15% sale that CCP is holding for Plex during the launch week of Invasion. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but you can already tell in the last couple of days that we're hesitating to go even lower than that. On the other hand, summer is in full swing here in Belgium, for instance. We have absolutely tremendous weather, and I think lots of people will start to go on weekend trips and things like that. I think that the pressure on Plex is going to start to build. If we go outside of JITA, we're down to 4.2 million, a bit above that for the sellers, and buyers are down to just below 4.2 million. So a little bit of pressure on Plex. It is due to CCP. A telltale sign for that as well is the increased volumes here, of course, with the 15% sale. But my personal expectation is that we will start to see the summer push through on the Plex markets. Next up, we have the multiple pilot training certificate. That's also plateauing at this point. No sale on that, but we are trying to get back below 2 billion ISK, I believe. It's just above 2 billion for the sellers, but the buyers are above 1.9 billion, and you can see that margin opening up here again between sellers and buyers, potentially putting a bit of a downward pressure on the training certificates. After that, we have the skill extractors following plex very closely, of course. So here you also see a little bit of a pullback down from just shy of 500 million ISK. We're down to 476 million for the sellers, 472 for the buyers. So that's that big difference between here the skill extractors have gone down a bit, margin completely gone. So the sellers are putting pressure because of the plex sale, more and more of them. You can see in the last 24 hours, for instance, driving the price down from 488, 483, 481, and all the way down to 476 at this point. Buyers are holding steady at 472. That margin has completely collapsed. Multiple pilot trades. If you get, you don't see that many fresh sales coming in, and thus you see the buyers actually try to drive the price back down. The latest buy orders actually, I think putting them down at as low as possible prices, showing a bit more patience. If you look at this as well, 1925 one day ago. Let's see here, last 24 hours, and then here to 1926. That's all that move. Only 1 million move in those buyers, while the sellers are waiting it out a little bit. Meaning that we are hesitating here and potentially going down in price if this keeps up, of course. After that, we have the injectors. Let's start with the large scale injectors, actually bouncing back above a billion ISK. They really just do that. 1 billion and 1 or 2 million for the sellers, 989.5 million for the buyers. Here again, a bit of a margin, and on a surprise upswing, I didn't think that would happen. The only good news is we do seem to be peaking out here just above a billion ISK, and so we don't reach another 1 year high point on this slight move up for the large scale injectors. And again, that margin opening up, 1 billion for the sellers and something like 989 million for the buyers. Potentially, we could start to see some pressure there. Small scale injectors, also a slight move up, but again, not reaching the 1 year high point of above 210 million ISK. It's 202 million for the sellers, 198 for the buyers. I think the upcoming weeks and months are going to be crucial to see whether or not we will see a pullback, a nice buy opportunity, and then it will all depend, of course, on what CCP announces for the game. Or is this the new normal? Will we actually start to trade small scale injectors for around 200 million ISK? Will we start to trade plex above 4 million in a substantial or sustained way, I should say? It's going to be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. Next up, we have the mineral market. Oh no, I forgot the daily alpha injector actually. Daily alpha injector going down in price, showing a bit of pressure, heading down back to 60 million ISK, which is a normal price for the daily alpha injector. 64.5 million for the sellers, 58.8 for the buyers. That is very interesting actually, seeing this average price dive down to less than 60 million ISK, with the seller still at 64.5. That means that the buyers are actually mostly winning out on the market here. People are just selling straight to them at this point, making this average price of, well, just shy of 60 million so far. Very strange and interesting situation, which I think is going to be the precursor. I mean, this is again just me speculating, but I think that we will start to see that pattern show up in the rest of this category as well. Moving on to the minerals at 825. Let's go take a look at that. You may already have seen from the ticker titanium up to more than 5 ISK. Very interesting, of course. We do have a little bit of war happening in Gnosis at this point. I think the Imperium is deployed, and we see like Pandemic Legion, Pandemic Horde, smaller fleets of them actually harassing Delph, meaning that production is definitely taking a massive downturn there, or a serious downturn there, which drives the price up, of course. 514 for the sellers of titanium, and then 491 for the buyers of titanium. We're back above 5 ISK. That's very good news. We're not really seeing that much on the volume, so this ought to just be a drying up of the market, and sellers being able to sell these titanium at a premium. Pretty damn nice. Let's see if any of the others follow suit. Yes, look at that buy right. We're not seeing a massive volume spike, so this is not investors moving in on the pyrite market and grabbing everything below 4.7 or wherever it is that will be landing, everything above 4.5. Nope, this is just a market basically drying up, forcing the price up for pyrite to 467 and 451 for the buyers. They have been forced up as well. You do see the first guys that are trying to, the first sellers that are trying to take advantage of these prices. 2 billion units coming in for pyrite, another 2 billion here. But this is very interesting, a sharp increase in price. And actually, if it is 4.6 ISK, it is above that for the sellers. 1 year high point for pyrite. How long has it been since we've said that for a mineral? But yeah, pyrite has been in such a bad way that that comeback is actually very impressive. Super interesting. Let's take a look at Mexalon next, the bottleneck in Gnosis normally. Well, not that big of an increase in price. We did come from a 1 year low point of around 55 ISK. We're now selling at 64 and the buyers are coming in at 61 ISK. So that is definitely an upswing as well, but more of a correction from that massive dip here. We're not seeing a breakout here in Mexalon. That's a bit of a surprise to me. I thought it would happen here as well, or first even, because of course that is normally your first bottleneck in Gnosis. You can also see volumes up a little bit on one day, but nothing that indicates massive buying by speculators. After that, we've got Isogen that is continuing the slow downtrend actually. Yep, 20-day moving average still going down towards 15 ISK, so it's still a mixed picture. 15.92 for the sellers, 15.23 for the buyers, and here we definitely see volumes down again. Not a lot to see, and the price is not moving, so that is quite interesting. We've got this titanium that is definitely going above average all of a sudden. This very interesting breakout of pyrite. Then we get the hesitation in Mexalon and the no movements in Isogen. After that, we still have Noxium to take a look at. A little bit of a jump up as well, moving in the 3 to 325 band, being able to defend that quite nicely after our dip here in May, taking us below 300 ISK. We're back at 320 for the sellers, 303 for the buyers. Basically an above average price actually if you look at this full 1 year chart. And then we have our Gnostic minerals. Here is Zydrine actually jumping back above 500 ISK as well. 517 for the sellers, 491 for the buyers. Basically, a little bit of a lack of supply here in the last 24 hours. We're not seeing that much. We do see 2 million, 5 million here, but these are slightly older orders. So Zydrine is not under pressure that much because we're not seeing too much supply. And then we go for Megasite. That's a different picture. Historically, the most valuable Tech 1 related mineral here, Megasite, driven down to less than 450 on the chart, 443, 442 for the sellers, 418 for the buyers. And the difference is, look at the last 24 hours, we still have 6 orders or so, 3.5 million, 3.4 million, another 4 million here, and thus we see some supply in Megasite that keeps the pressure up. And for Zydrine, surprisingly enough, we're not seeing that. We're seeing that stalling at 500 ISK. Kind of strange. After that, we've got Morphite that we saw last week started a breakout, is now selling for 9,100 ISK. There's one seller of 8,800. I think we'll be able to get rid of that. So above 9,000 for the sellers, 8,500 for the buyers. People that bought at the 1 year low points close to 7,000 ISK can make a nice little trade here, and this is of course tied to the war. For sure, Tech 2 ships I think will be in the meta quite a bit more. So interesting week in the minerals. Let's hope that the war drums in 0.0 can keep going, that the deployment of, well, the largest Gnostic entity of the Imperium maintains itself, because obviously that means potentially some nice profits for people on the market. Moving on to PI at 1340. Like that, and let's take a look at this. We've got the broadcast nodes that are, well, slowly edging back towards the average 2.1 million. Sellers are, well, at 2,049,000, so two and then half a million. Interesting. So not as high as I thought. Interesting. And now we've got the buyers still below 1.9 million. Okay, so they're definitely still trading below average. And what we can tell from this chart is that is basically the sellers that are starting to win out here. Nobody is selling at these crazy low prices of less than 1.9 million for the broadcast nodes, driving that price up. But sellers are still in competition with each other. Look at the last 24 hours full front page, and they are still keeping the price very, very reasonable. Next up, we have the construction blocks that dipped down to a 1 year low point of around 10,000 ISK. Is finally coming back a little bit. Very good news, I would say. 11,200 for the sellers, 10,400 for the buyers. Not back to the 12,000 range, which is historically speaking a normal price, but we're on our way there. With a bit more momentum, we might actually manage to do that. So this dip, this opportunity in construction blocks is now over. Consumer electronics had the same pattern and actually made it back to 14,000 ISK. Very interesting. 14,600 in fact for the sellers, 13,600 for the buyers. And ooh, we actually have a GM in help right now. Yeah, actually I'm seeing more GM activity in the help channel. Pretty cool as well. So 14,000 for the consumer electronics. Also a little bit of a May dip here, and then a nice comeback back to, well, an average to an even above average price for the sellers. Very interesting to see that all of a sudden as well. I thought this would last a little bit longer, but nope, the comeback is here already and is definitely building in construction blocks. After that, we've got the coolants. Here we do have some bad news for people that are looking to sell these goods at tremendously high prices, because we do have finally a pullback towards 10,000 ISK, back to a less than average price after a very strong early start of the year. So we are talking 10,900 for the sellers, 10,161 for the buyers. That is definitely a serious pullback for the coolants market. And so here we do see this massive bubble, you could call it, but it was a tremendous opportunity and it was sustained for a very long time, where you could actually sell coolants for a very good price. So this is pretty sharp drop off in about 3 months time, back to a less than average price. Let's see if the other ones followed suit as well. Enriched uranium did the same thing, down to 12,000 ISK, but you do see a bit of a bounce from that. 13,300 for the sellers, 12,990, so 13,000 ISK for the buyers. So getting back to 13,000 ISK, well, around average if you look at this entire 1 year chart, maybe a touch below that, but nice little bounce here from 12,000 ISK. Volumes, we're not really seeing investors buying massive amounts of them to create that, so this is just the market responding to the sharp decline in less than 3 months. Integrity response drones also moving up a little bit in the last couple of days, but staying well below its average of around 2.5 million. Sellers are 50,000 below 2.5 million. Buyers are at 2.3 million ISK. So this is again not trading at a super low point, but still trading just below its average. Then we get mechanical parts, and this is tied to fuels and it's completely different from coolants, and enriched uranium is actually staying at its higher range of 13,000 ISK. Almost 13,000 for the sellers, 12,500 for the buyers. Very nice performance for mechanical parts, super easy to make on barren planets, so definitely something that you could focus on. You're getting more out of mechanical parts than you're getting out of coolants at this point, which well, is actually kind of strange. Normally mechanical parts is actually a little bit lower than coolants. Nuclear reactors next, still playing with these very low points, and look at the volume. So we're seeing a complete lack of demand in nuclear reactors. 96,500 for the sellers, 89,000 for the buyers. You basically have this margin between sellers and buyers that is pretty high, and is creating this pattern of, well, sometimes we're at the higher end, about 100,000 ISK. That's when the sellers are winning out just a little bit, but most of the time we actually find ourselves at the bottom here. Let's see what it is here. Yeah, 84, 85k, and that is because, well, there's hardly anyone actually buying nuclear reactors, so some people get impatient, sell a little bit to the buyers, and that's really all that's happening in this market. Kind of sad to see. This used to be a very volatile good in the last couple of years that was often giving us nice trade opportunities. Organic mortar applicators next went to a 1 year low point of less than a million ISK. That was a very nice buy opportunity. Something like that doesn't last for very long. Of course, we have slightly higher volumes, bring the price back above a million ISK, and it is shy of 1.1 million for the sellers. Still just below 1 million for the buyers. So again, advanced PI materials trading below average, and this is what you want to look out for, of course, if you're looking to make those trades. Buy at these very pronounced 1 year low points. Next up, we've got robotics tied to fuels, also doing quite nicely, staying just above average at this point. 103,000 for the sellers, 99,000 for the buyers. Super narrow margin at a higher range, very nice to see. and now we get a self-harmonizing power course. Same pattern again, went down to 1 year low point or close to that at 1.9 million, coming back to 2 million for the sellers, still at around 1.9 million for the buyers. Just not a great market for advanced PI, but as you can tell from these charts, from time to time you have these pronounced opportunities. Let's see if we can spot something in broadcast notes. Yeah, when we're playing with 1.9 million for instance, and then the integrity response drone, same thing here. In fact, see a pretty nice volume spike on this low point as well. So this is, I think, what most of the market is doing. We're not sure if or when CCP comes out with more structure stuff, but that means that you have a slow preparation opportunity at this point to just buy at the very lowest points. I think that that's how most of the market is trying to act here. Then we've got the superconductors that went up to an above average price again and is now giving back a little bit of ground here, selling for 13,200 ISK, 11,800 for the buyers. Pretty decent margin between these two, and this one is definitely moving all over the place. I think on one day you get sellers winning out, selling a lot more than what is being sold to the buyers, and then you've got these high points, and then on the other day you've got buyers that are winning out, and then you go to these low points. So this one is actually pretty volatile, and potentially you could make some trades in superconductors, I think. Then we've got the sculptures staying at a super low point, 6 to 7,000 ISK. That's kind of bad. 6,950 for the sellers. Look at the lack of demand here. Quite obvious, 6,000 ISK for the buyers. Something that you could definitely try. I think if we look at this entire chart here, 6K is absolutely below the entire chart for test cultures. Super cheap. Then we've got the wetware mainframe, again with that pattern, of course, down to a 1 year low point of around 2 million ISK. We're back up to 2.2 million to 2.24 million for the sellers, and just above 2 million for the buyers. So get a bit of a comeback on volumes, and this is, I think, exactly showing what I think most of the market is doing, waiting for these opportunities. Then you've got these volumes, people grabbing that advanced PI and hoping that CCP comes out with a new line of structures. Let's move on to our advanced moon materials, coming in at 2205. Like that. Let's see what the vibe is here with the war. Is there anything that is moving here? Well, we've got crystalline carbonite that's finally stalling its descent when as low as 130 ISK. You've got some people buying as investments for sure. Look at this volume spike, but the price is just not going anywhere. So even that is not enough. 4 or 5 times the normal volumes is still not enough to substantially move the market. Sellers 145, buyers 139. That is still well below average, pretty damn low. Ferrite carbide also creating that bottom, but staying super low in the sell price at the moment. Also a bit of a volume increase, so you do have some buying happening at those crazy low prices. But yeah, 140 for the sellers, 131 for the buyers is still terribly low. After that we have our titanium carbide, which we saw last week, I think, maintain its price. Look at that breakout. Okay, quite a surprise. Titanium carbide up to 225 all of a sudden. 225. Lack of supplies, 219 for the buyers. So if you manage to buy that at like 175 or below that, you do have a trade here. 175 to 225. That ought to be a little bit of profit. Very nice and unexpected move. Look at the volumes as well. This is actually on quite a bit of purchasing apparently. Nice to see. Love it. Advanced moon materials, often something that is rich for trading, and here we see why. Titanium carbide, pretty massive breakout, heading for a 1 year high point actually if you look at this entire 1 year chart. Tungsten carbide next, staying at a slightly below average price. So here again a very mixed picture. 201 for the sellers, 197 for the buyers. I'm gonna assume that this is due to regional differences here, that whoever has a lot of titanium carbide potentially in there. Well, actually, I think that distribution is pretty even these days, so it shouldn't matter that much. But for some reason, we do have this crazy outlier here. We'll see if that keeps up. Next up, the metamaterials, photonic metamaterials, continuing at that slow downturn at its 1-year low point. So that's really bad. 16,000 for the sellers, 15,500 for the buyers. I think that's going to be historically low, definitely below the entire chart at this point. Plasmonic metamaterials actually came back a little bit and is holding on to an average price above 20k. So that's, ooh. And then the spike happened and is yet to materialize. That's interesting. 38,000 for the sellers, 25,000 for the buyers. Or is it because it's being traded somewhere else? Nope, everything is in GTA 4.4. Plasmonic metamaterials, well, is going up to 30. Is it 38? 38,000 disk. That's somewhere here on the chart. Okay, so that spike has just formed. We should see by next week we should see a massive volume increase and then a purchase and then a spike up to 38,000. So if you have some of that cheap plasmonic metamaterials, bring that to the market. I think you're getting a really good price right now. After that, we have our non-linear metamaterials that spiked up last week, actually up to 30k. Has to give back a little bit of ground, but is still selling at 28,500 to 29,000 disk. Buyers at 26,000, so we're still pretty decent in this price as well. And then we have terahertz metamaterials that is continuing to stay pretty stable around its average price, 24,360 for the sellers, 22,600 for the buyers. That's an okay price. So again, a very mixed picture with plasmonic metamaterials getting bought out all of a sudden on the markets. After that, we have the other advanced moon materials. Here is fermionic condensates. Very weird data point. I hope that this gets taken out. Or did we really drop to 37,000, 103,000 for the sellers, 99,000 for the buyers? This is just an anomalous data point. That's quite unfortunate. The chart itself, yeah, is gonna get completely corrupted by that, unfortunately. Ferrogel actually up in price a little bit, back to 50,000 disk for the sellers, 49,600 for the buyers as well. Both have been forced up. That is quite interesting. Back to, well, still below average, but at least it's not the bottom prices anymore. Fullerites, flat below average, just shy of 1,000 disk, 980 for the sellers, 900 for the buyers. Not much to say there. Hypersynaptic fibers though, that's another increase in price to 14k if you bought these for less than 12. You also have a small trade here, 14,000 for the buyers, 13,660, 14,000 for the sellers, 13,660 for the buyers. Forced up as well. Interesting moves here all of a sudden. It has to be tied to Gnosis, of course. Nanotransmitters also up, but from a very low point. So this is still 5,300 for the sellers and almost 5,000 for the buyers is still, you know, below average. Then we've got the phenolic composites that were at bottom prices last week. A little bit of a comeback, but still with 1,900 for the sellers and just shy of 1,900 for the buyers. This is still super cheap. We do see volume increases, so people have started their investments at these, well, 1650 opportunities. Then we've got ceramic fibers, also a bit of a comeback on increased volumes, but coming from a 1-year low point as well. Went for less than 400 disk, up to 474. Buyers are up to 450. So that is basically the market taking advantage of these 1-year low prices. And that is it for advanced moon materials. Very interesting week though. Kind of strange with some of these breakouts. I am curious to see where this will go. And that means after a very difficult year in these advanced moon materials, we finally start to see a little bit of movement on the upside and some potential sell opportunities. Very cool. Let's see if there's an impact on the Tech 2 ship market then. Hopefully some of those fleets got blown up. We are going in at 28.35. Like that. And let's take a look at the Aries here. Yep, ooh, look at that. Aries up, went for, well, less of 24 million, less than that on average. So you could have bought some really cheap ones. Look at the volume increases, and now we are selling these for 34 million isk, 29.3. Oh man, war is so good for the market. That is like 10 million, easy 40% profit on a buy of 24 million just last week. Very nice to see. And the buyers are actually up to 29.3 million as well. Let's see if same thing is, well, Basilisk is up as well, went up to 280 million ISK at this point, so I think that last week we had a bit of an increase, but that is just continuing at this point. 280 for the sellers, 235 for the buyers. Not that long ago you could have very easily bought these for less than 230, so definitely some profit to be made as well. Cerberus actually down in price, very interesting. 229 for the sellers, 205 for the buyers. I think Cerberus fleets do happen from time to time, so potentially this could still be your chance to get in. Try to grab a Cerberus between 205 and 228, let's say 210 or something like that, and try to be ready for a potential trade there. Next up we've got the Crow continuing to stay pretty low, so it is a mixed picture yet again as well. Crow staying down to less than 25 million, 26 for the sellers, 24.3 for the buyers. Still decent supplies, but look at the last 24 hours, not that much coming in, so this is set to dry up as well. Potentially the Crow purchase might make a lot of sense. The Guardian, second leg up as well, went up to 250, is now heading for a 1-year high point. 279 for the sellers, 250 for the buyers. As I've said, logistics cruisers in wars make a lot of sense. I'm really curious to see what the Heretic, for instance, is doing, and then of course the Cell Bombers as well. So the Guardian up very close to 1-year high point. Not yet, we saw 300 million in August apparently, but we are getting quite close to that. So, and that's coming from a 1-year high point of around 210 million not that long ago. You know, 70% profit just like that in a couple of weeks. Not bad. Thank you Nosek for finally giving us some action. The Heretic, well, I thought interdictors would be primaried a lot more and that we'd see some losses and there's some purchases there. Not really happening. We are still down below 70 million ISK, almost 71 for the sellers, 62 to 63 for the buyers. That is still really low. Stealth Bomber next. Here is the Hound shooting up. Yes. Ooh. Did they buy my 37 million ISK Hounds then? No, not yet. Damn it. 36 million for the sellers, 31 for the buyers. I have a couple of Hounds selling for around 37 million. Normally, I'm not actually seeing that sell order here. That's kind of strange. Did I put it up here somewhere? Yeah, there we go. Reduced. Oh, no, that's not me. Because that's 9 jumps out. Nope, that's okay, kind of weird. We'll have to take a look at that. But the Hounds are definitely up as well. Not that long ago you could have bought these for 26 million. You're now selling them for 36 million. Stealth Bombers, logistics cruisers, great stuff. The Ishtar we saw last week went to a 1-year low point and is actually continuing to do so. Now the 5-day moving average is below 200 million. Now that's a cheap Ishtar. 198 for the sellers, 189 for the buyers. Definitely something to look at as well. I'm not sure why, but at some point the Ishtar does make a lot of sense. It's a super powerful drone ship. You are going to have some use for that somewhere. So this is a crazy low price for the Ishtar, probably the lowest I've ever seen it, less than 200 million, and you're just pressing buy right now and you've got an Ishtar. Kind of crazy. Then we get the Manticore Stealth Bomber as expected after reaching a 1-year low point of less than 30 million ISK, shooting up here. 48 million now for the sellers, 27.7 for the buyers. And if I go for my trying to sell, which I've obviously done then, I sold too soon, but I bought for 28 million, just shy of that, and I sold for 33.9 million. Made some profit, and I obviously sold way too early, so this goes into the trades made. Very cool stuff. I'm curious to see if my Hound sell order is still up there. Maybe we took it, maybe it's sold. Gonna be close. So that's the Manticore, another Stealth Bomber. Nice increase in price. Munin is finally going up as well. So it looks like the Imperium does still use Munin fleets. Last week or the week before that, could have bought these for 210. We're now selling them for 285. Yeah, that's some pretty big purchasing. That's some nice profit, but be careful here. Look at the bars. They're still at 210. They are not budging from that price range. So very interesting increase in price, but the margin has just opened up basically. This could be a very short-lived one. After that, we get the Nemesis also shooting up back above 30 million. That's pretty good news. 29, well, actually sellers, they can come in quite quickly. 29.6 million for the sellers, 27 million for the buyers. So another increase in price, but actually the least good one, I would say. of all the stealth bombers so far. Then we get the Oniros, went to 1 year low point. Finally some volumes and an increased price. So it was the time to buy last week for less than 180. Now selling for 232. Buyers coming in at 184. So very nice move again on a logistics cruiser. Then we get the Purifier. Oh, that is lovely. These are the good old Tech 2 ship charts, guys. This is why we take a look at these ships. Look at this. November, spike at 40 million. Could have bought them for 26.5 million. Then here in March, spike 40 million. Could have bought them a little bit later for 29.5 million. Another spike just shy of 40 million. Went down to 28 million. Now selling for 44 million on the Purifier. 32 million for the buyers. So that is another nice and crazy spike. But this is why we love Tech 2 ships. This can happen. And as I've said, my favorite category, stealth bombers, logistics cruisers, are doing extremely well this week. We've got lots of sell opportunities. I hope you guys stocked up on at least some of these. Normally I have some purchases. I'm not sure if we have any of this. Let's take a quick look at that. If I still have I do still have Nemesis that I bought for less than 25 million. I'm gonna actually wait for a bigger spike on that one. And unfortunately I don't have any Purifiers to sell, because that's a crazy good trade to make right here. And look at that volatility. 1, 2, 3, and our fourth sell opportunity in the last 8 months or so, and 3 of those in the last 4 months. Crazy good. Love that. Next up, we've got the Saber. Is that one moving? No, I'm really surprised. I thought the Interdictors would do better than that. It's not at a 1 year low point anymore, but sellers coming in at 70 million, buyers at 62.7 million. That is still well below average. Then we have another logistics cruiser, Scimitar, not moving that much despite the volume increase, but we are also coming from a low point at 190, now selling for 221, buyers at 200, so definitely the least performing one as well. And then finally the Stiletto, after reaching a low point earlier in the month, last month I should say, at 26 million, now selling for 31 million, a small trade to be made there as well. But we definitely have an interesting week in the Tech 2 ship market. Thank you, Nelsik, for finally showing us a little bit of action and potentially getting some trades. As you saw as well in my trades made here, then I sold these Manticores, not for the best profit that I could have made. I sold them a little bit too soon, but profit is profit in my opinion. Next up, we have the Tech 3 ship market coming in at 37 minutes. Like that. Let's see if those are moving, because Tech 3 ships ought to be pretty popular as well. Here is the Confessor. Nope, continuing a slow downturn to less than 38 million on the chart. We're talking 38 million for the sellers, 36 million for the buyers. Last 24 hours though, that's not a lot of supply. So we are sitting here on a normal amount of Confessors, maybe slightly above normal amount, 67 here. That's actually quite a bit. And then down here we still have like 100 in a couple orders as well. But this actually feels quite okay. And what is interesting is the lack of fresh supply in the Confessor market. So this might actually be a buy opportunity if Confessor fleets will find their way to the Gnosis conflict. Next up we have the Hecate. That one is still trading at 45 million ISK. That's where I would suspect more supply to come in. And well, we do have some supply. It's 69 units, but it is a single order in the last 24 hours. Selling for 45 million, buyers at 43 million. Definitely a bit less supply. Condensed supply, 178 here. That's a bit out of the norm. But overall, this feels like it's gonna be pretty much the same amount of ships and just selling at a nice premium. So I do think we'll see more Hecates coming to the market, less Confessors, and thus we will see those prices get closer to one another, unless weird stuff happens. I read somewhere that someone was flying Jackdaws, and indeed they were, going from 40 million up to 55 million. We're already on our way back down, so you should have done so about a week ago, but still selling for 49 million, and the buyers coming in at 44 million. And this is, of course, look at that, 89, 89, 89. This is where production is. Love to see that market movement. This is 2 full pages of new Jackdaws coming in, trying to take advantage of that price spike. It did go up to 55 million ISK, so this is actually quite normal. It's even above the head gate. It is still above the head gate, and this is where all supply is coming in. One thing to note though, 20, 33, 48, 32, 32, 35, another 55 here. It is not too big, but it is a lot. This is not 200, 300, 400. We've seen that happen before. That's when we play with all-time low prices. But it is a lot. It does show that the production potential and the amount of ships that are still available out there is quite substantial. You gotta keep that in mind. After that, we've got the Zwepel. That's also actually going up in price a little bit. On the lack of supply, 50 million. Just a couple of them being relisted or coming in the last 24 hours. Buyers are still at 37 million though, so I'm suspecting that we have increased volumes, but nothing that crazy compared to the Jackdaw volumes. Yeah, that is the big difference. Of course, it's the popularity. 125 for the Zwepel is an incredible trade day, double the normal amounts. On the Jackdaw, we see 250 for about 10 days straight, with an outlier at 750. And that is of course the big difference. Next up, we've got the cruisers. Here is the Legion continuing pretty low, 140. That's a surprise to me. 144 for the sellers, 134 for the buyers. We still have 24 of them coming in here. I think if you want in on Tech 3 potential, then this is a chart that you should definitely look into. Legion fleets are part of Nosec. They do happen eventually. Next up, we've got the Loki, also staying pretty low. Not at the 1 year low point. You could have bought these for around 150. A couple days ago, it's now 163 for the sellers, 156 for the buyers, but it is still very cheap for what they can do. Loki's very popular from what I've seen as well in the Triglavian invasions. Then we've got the Proteus. Same thing here, went down to a low point of 120. Is now selling for 134. Buyers are at 125. This is still well below average, pretty cheap. And then the Tengu is the outlier. This one is still below average, but not at so close to its low points. 158 for the sellers, 148 for the buyers. Supply wise, I haven't really looked at the volume, so not too much coming in the last 24 hours. Nothing too crazy there. Now we get a Proteus 2310 here, nothing too crazy, and a little bit in the last 24 hours. Loki, still a decent amount coming in, despite the low prices. Last 24 hours, actually, quite a few of them, and surprised to still see this amount of Lokis here. And then the Legion, last 24 hours a little bit, and nothing too crazy in supply. So these could actually, on a couple of Tech 3 fleets lost or that need to be replaced in short order, this could go up very quickly in price. Especially the Legion here, what I'm seeing is that you need to buy maybe one fleet to drive that price up to 170. That's pretty easy to do actually, and there's just not more here. So that is why I think that this Legion chart is actually pretty interesting. And then for our extra product this week, just because I've been flying the Praxis, I'm gonna take a look at a couple of Society of Conscious Thought ships, the Praxis and the Gnosis. That's coming in at 4225. Like that. These are tremendous ships in my opinion. Not the best, but they are basically super all-round ships. So we've got ships, we've got a battle cruiser, which ought to be... Let's see if I can find it. Not sure in which category, so let's just go look for Gnosis. Yep, that ought to be that. Gnosis is in ships, special edition ships, special edition battle cruiser. Alright, and of course with the 16-year anniversary gifts, I think we got some of these. So here we can see that the Gnosis went up to 32.5 million late April, actually getting a little bit more expensive, definitely at a 1 year high point and above average. But then the gifts came in, look at the volume increases early May. Yeah, that's obviously where all of this is coming from. Now selling for 24 million, buyers coming in at 23.3 million. This is actually a 1 year low point, super low. Of course, the availability is quite nice at the moment, but the slow burn up might actually be a reality as well. And for what it does, I think that this is a crazy low price, right? You've got bonuses to any weapon system you want. You have these all-round defenses that you can just very easily upgrade, and then its fitting is actually a let's see, 6 high slots, I think 666 with 5 turret slots. Absolutely perfect to try some exploration, to get in on these invasions and things like that. So the Gnosis is trading at a low point due to the anniversary gifts. Let's take a look at Praxis. I actually saw a lot of those in the invasions, and yeah, also selling at a 1-year low point for a battleship that does this. 68 million for the sellers, 60 million for the buyers, and this is a crazy battleship. 777, 6 launchers, again with the traits large, all turrets, including a nice drone bonus, including a probe bonus. This is a crazy good battleship for this price, so that is very nice to see how affordable this is, and I think that this gives even newer players, even alpha players, potentially a very nice platform to take a look at the Triglavian invasions. I know that my fit during the first look was not right. I had a plan there which didn't work out. I was really trying to get that Praxis to work as a sniper. So with the micro jump drive, I was hoping to get maybe 4 or 5 shots, take two ships out before they came at me, using the cruise missiles for super long range with the longest range sentry drones, but they were just too fast. That was not working out, and then they actually started to chew through my drones very quickly. So it was a failed fit, it was a failed attempt, but overall I learned a lot of lessons. I actually went back just yesterday with another Praxis fit, and I actually managed to get some loot, which is actually for Tech 2 production, so there might be some worth in there as well. More on that later, of course, but for now, that's gonna be it for this EVE Talk. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.